good morning, and good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to today's webinar. My name is Ram. I'm one of the product specialists from the product support team for ServiceDesk Plus Cloud, and I will be the presenter for today. Today, we are going to talk, or we are going to rather see about the new feature which was released for ServiceDesk Plus Cloud. It's called the release management. Uh, Before we get started or before we see the feature itself, let's understand what is release management. IT release management is all about planning, testing, managing, collaborating, and deploying control software or IT releases through a systematic approach. To understand why would an organization need release management, let's see how the releases are handled today, right? To begin with, the first thing that an organization might do or will do is collaborate, right? So there will be a set of people or a set of stakeholders who would actually form a group together to talk about the stuff that are involved with regards to the release. And in order to collaborate, they might use a chat group like Slack, or they might use Skype for business, right? So there are collaboration mechanism involved. And there will no releases come without a downtime, right? And when a release happens, there might be downtimes, and that particular information, or at least if it's forecasted, or at least if it is at present there is a downtime, you would need to notify the knock teams about it, right? And currently this notification is sent through a separate email, right? And not just the knock team, let's say for example, needs to be notified in terms of an application failure or a server upgrade failure or a server upgrade down, right? You would also need to notify the respective users and the departments who are actually dependent on that particular server, for example, right? And that kind of announcement is also sent through email. And there is always risk, and the risk evaluation is performed in terms of a major release, right? And it is performed by the key stakeholders by collaborating again, right? So this is how IT release management is done, as we were looking at, right? And by going through this, it does not come without any challenges, right? So these are some of the common challenges where an IT team might face in terms of a release. To start off, right, you would need to first identify the key stakeholders involved, right? And there might be a stakeholder who might actually not be included in that particular group, right? So there will be cases where they won't be present. And when they perform a risk evaluation, there might not be proper data available, right? And there might also not be a proper way to track approval processes, right? And there is no single storage or single point of storage of information with regards to previous releases and to generate reports, right? So for example, you are going to do a similar kind of release which happened like 6 months or a year ago, right? You might need to gather some information from it, and it's not easy to fetch that if there is no single source of truth, right? And there might also be conflicts arising with other scheduled activities when you're doing a release, right? So these are some of the common challenges which an IT team might face. So how you can optimize the whole release process? So I'm going to give you a 9-step guide on how you can do that, right? To start off, number one is all about collecting information and collecting the necessary information so you don't miss out on the key points or the key information, right, to handle a release. Then once you have the information, you would need to evaluate the risk that is involved, analyze what could be the impact when rolling out that particular release. Right now you have one and two. The next thing that you do, you have calculated the risk, you have analyzed the impact, then you would need to plan your execution and also come up with a rollback measure in case of a failure. Once you have these three covered, you can go ahead further and start developing the necessary platform, right? And once that is developed, you move it to testing, then you move it to UAT testing, where you involve UAT is nothing but user acceptance testing. So you involve your key stakeholders and get their opinions. Once that is done, proceed to deployment and make sure you have key staff present in terms of assistance also, right? And it uh, once you deployed a release or once you have done with the release, it does not end there. Post release, you would need to first of all provide first level of support and training to the customer facing teams or the end user facing teams in your organization. And most importantly, you would need to conduct a review of the release, record it so that it will help you in the future when you incur when you incur a similar scenario as you might have experienced today, right? So this is a 9-step guide on how a release can be handled. With that, I'm going to introduce you to release management in Service Desk Plus Cloud and how those 9 steps can actually be done in the cloud version of Service Desk. Right? So this is how a release lifecycle can be in Service Desk Plus Cloud. So in the application, all releases are coming from a change, right? So you create a change request, you move it and you create a new release, and from a release you do the planning, where you evaluate the risk, analyze the impact, and once that is done, move it through appropriate approvals. And once you have that approval, move it to development. Once the development is completed, you move it to testing, you do user acceptance testing, you deploy it, provide a early life support to the respective teams, and once that is done, review it and you close the release, right? So this is a release life cycle, and this is how it can be done in Service Desk Plus. So to to quickly see what a release could be is, let's take an example, right? So there is an organization which is looking to increase their data centers performance, right? And they also want to share the backup data to a server which is located in the New York data center, right, or New York, United States. So what they initially did was they created a change request in Service Desk, right? So in that particular change request, they filled out all the relevant information. So they did, during the submission, they provided what was the category, what's the impact gonna be, and all that information, right? And under planning, they defined the impact that is involved with this particular change, what is their rollout plan, right? And they moved it to necessary approvals, did some implement, and once they got through some necessary approvals and then moved it to the implementation stage, right? Under implementation stage, they created a release, right? So we will see how we will do that. And what they did was they created a release ticket, and when they did that, all the information got automatically copied from the particular change. So if I go into planning tab, I have my impact details, the rollout plan automatically copied. And what they can do is now they can move it across the workflow, right? And then get the release done in their organization, right? So that is a this is the release feature which is available in Service Desk Plus on a higher level view, right, on a bird's eye view. Now let's see what are the key components or key components that are involved in release management automation, right? To begin with, you will have predefined templates, or you have predefined templates, and you can create your own templates, and you can also define automated workflows and create custom stage and statuses. You can define roles and define the downtime types that are involved, right? So we will be going through these 5 customizations first, which are key in creating a release management automation, right? Currently I'm logged into Service Desk as a administrator, and I go into templates and forms, release template, right? So just like a change template, you have general template and emergency template. You can create a new template as per your preference. For now, I'm editing this. So you can define the type and the workflow that is associated with it, right? We will come to that in a very moment. So these are some of the predefined fields that are already available. You can create your own additional fields by simply dragging and dropping them. And just like a change request, you can also create a section and group the fields together, just like this CSI section, right? So just to have a easy understanding of the information that is available on the change ticket, on the release ticket, right? And so that is how you create your release template. And when you create a release template, you can define roles. So what are roles? The roles are the people, right, who will act on this particular release, right? So where do you define the roles, or what are the predefined roles that are available? To see that, we'll go to setup, customization, and release management, right? And you have release role. So these are the predefined roles. So the release manager is the highest permission for a release. You can associate a release manager you can associate the release management role to a technician by going to users and permissions, technicians, and let's edit this technician, and you will see SD release manager, right? That role can be assigned only from the technician sections, and it can be only assigned to a technician. Rest of the release roles, right, it can be acted by both the end users and technician. For example, a development head can be a user, and can be both users and technicians, or it can be just technician only. And you can specify what permission they will have in each stage. For example, this role has permission to edit a release during a planning stage of a release or the development stage of a release. Approve permission, I will show you as we work through the workflow in a release ticket. Okay, so you can specify what permissions they will have during each stage, right? So you can also create customized release roles in the application. So any release role that you create, they will be available over here. So you can also create a custom role by dragging this new role when you are a template, when you're creating a template for a release, right? So that is release roles, and both the end users and technicians can act can be associated to a release role in each and every release ticket that you create, right? So that is templates, and that is release roles. Next up is workflow, right? So you can create release workflows by going to setup, automation, workflows, and you will have the release workflow tab. I'm pretty sure most of you might have already been using the change workflows. This workflow is pretty similar to that, but I'm still going to take you through to help you understand what can be done, right? And the most important component in terms of a workflow are the stages, right? So these are the predefined stages which are available as part of the application. So if I go into release management and to customization, I'll have stage and status. These are the predefined stages. Apart from this, you can also create your own stage in the application, and under each and every stage you can create a release status, right? So you can create different release statuses, and each release status can either be a pending type or a completed type, right? Only for that particular stage, right? And you can also notify the roles when a particular release hits this section in as part of its workflow. So you can specify who should be notified, and this is basically a dynamic variable based on the user associated to it as the release manager, or as the QA manager for that particular release. They will be notified with this template that is completely customizable, right? So you can create custom stage and custom statuses only for releases in ServiceDesk Plus. So these are some of the predefined uh, stages that we have, and this is a predefined workflow. Now I'm going to quickly take you through some of the nodes that we already have. So this is the stage node that was already present. Now what I want to do is, like, as part of my workflow, once the release is created, I want to check whether it's a major release or a minor release, right? So to do that, what I can do is I can drag this condition node and major release. I'm going to give that as a label, and type is major, and I will save it. Right. So this node is now added, and I want to check it immediately after a release is created. So as you can see, it's just binary, right? So if it's major release, it will just go yes. If it's not a major release, it will just go no. But I cannot check whether it's a minor release. Because there are multiple other release types which I already have, right? So what I can do in that case is I will drag the switch node, right? So I will say type, and I will choose what are the values that I want. So I will choose major and minor, and I will also add significant for this and save it. So now I have added the release work, the node. What I will do, drag the line, and if it's a major release, let's say if it's a minor release, I don't want to do anything. So I just wanted to trigger out a notification email, right? I will just simply drag the notification node, and I can create a customized notification. So minor release, and I want to say who needs to be notified, right? It could be the release rules, it could be the cab. What are the cab? Change advisory board, right? So you might have already had them as part of your change management, right? Any cab that you create over here will be available for you to select, or you can even choose the individual members from that particular cab, or it can be individual users as well that you can notify, right? So I can completely customize this template to include whatever field values that I want. So I will hit $sign, and I can choose any field value I want to have in this particular notification template, right? So let's just quickly choose this one for now. Choose it. And what I want to do is I just wanted to trigger out a notification email first, right? So trigger out a notification and move it to accepted state. And if it's a major release, I don't want I don't want anything to happen first, and all I want to do is trigger out an approval. So I will add this approval node, right? And I will say when it should when it should get approved. So do you want anyone to approve it, or everyone to approve it, or you want it based on first response action? Again, it can be release roles, cabs, or users, right? And I will choose the users that I want to approve, and I will customize the template to my liking, and then I will save it. So what I will do is, if it's a major release, I will move it to um, approval stage. If it is approved, I will move it to accepted. If it is denied, I will move it to rejected, and I can complete the rest of the workflow as per my liking. You can also do a field update. If you want to update values to fields, you will be able to update values to any of these fields, like rollout plan, the impact details, description can be updated through field updates, but those are predefined, right? So that is how you will be able to build a release workflow, and those are the various nodes available as part of the release workflow. And we also covered stage and status. The last key component is the downtime types. So you can create downtime types under release management customization section, and downtime type. So downtime type is nothing but what type of a downtime you might experience or what you're looking for, right? So it's just like predefined types for the users to select from when they are adding downtime to a change. Or I'm sorry, to a release, right? So those are downtime types. Now, those are the key components that are involved, and those are some of the customization involved with regards to release. Now, let's see how a release can be created, right? So, for as I've always said, it always starts from a change. So let's go ahead and create a change ticket. I'm going to say Ashwin is going to be my requester, and impact is going to be it's affecting business, and if it's affecting production, and the change owner is going to be Santa, and Rob will be my manager, right? And I can specify from when to when it is scheduled for, and what type of a change. I'm going to just choose it as a major change, right? And I can specify this to be scheduled for December 1st to December 7th, right? Okay, and I can specify what are the services that are affected, right? Where the I'm sorry, where are these fetched from? They are your service categories, right? So any category that you add over here, they are services that you offer to your organization. I can specify what are the services that will get affected, right? So I'm going to say internet access, intranet, and email will be affected. I can even specify if there is a CI involved, all right? So I'm going to upgrade a server now. So I will choose the CI. What are CIs? Configuration items which you define under the CMDB, right? And I can also define individual assets if I want. Specify a reason. I will just call this as server upgrade ticket, and I will save, right? And this request is now created. The change is now created, and I'm just going to do a quick planning where I will specify the impact details. For now, I'm just going to give this is an impact detail, and I will just use the same for rollout, right? And this is a rollout detail, right? And I will just save it. Now I have the information saved. What I will do is I'm not going to do any of the workflow section for now, and I will just move in as my change manager, and I will move it to the implementation state, right? Implementation stage and status implemented, provided with some comments and save. Now, over here, if I go into the associations tab, I will click on associated release. I can create a release from this change by clicking on the plus sign, and as you can see, the values are automatically copied for this from the change for this release. Right now, this is one way of doing it. Otherwise, if I go into the releases tab, I'll go to new release, right? And I will just choose the change server upgrade, which we just created. And I have an option to copy, right? So all I will do is overwrite all existing field values, and I will hit apply. And it automatically copies the values for me from my change request. And I will just say Santa is going to be my release engineer, Rob is my release manager, and I'll specify the roles. So Brett is going to be my development head, UAT will be handled by Catherine, and let's just put a couple of users for QA, and Colin, and one more user, right? And let's just save, and the release is now created, right? So this release is now in the submission state, right? I can provide it with some description or attachments. I can see that it is scheduled from 1st to 7th, right? Now, as I mentioned earlier, right, we need before we schedule any release, right, we need to make sure it does not conflict, right? Where would you check for conflicts? Is in the release calendar. So you have this calendar icon. You can see what are the releases that are scheduled for, and we are actually scheduling it only for the next month, and I see only my release created over here. Only my release created over here, right? So I'm not conflicting with any other release, so I can go further, and I can also create tasks for this particular release, and I can provide it with any kind of a note that I want, approvals or status comments, right? So that is now the release is currently in the submission stage, right? So I have, as Santa has worked on it for now, he is satisfied with it. Now the release should move in to the accepted state, right? If I go in over here for it to progress, if I go in over here, I'm actually not seeing the accepted status. Why? Is because Santa is a release engineer, but the release engineer role does not have permission to approve the particular stage, right? So if I go into the release role, edit the release engineer role, I can see the approval option is being unchecked, right? So that's the reason Santa is not able to see the accepted state. So let's just quickly give him that permission, do a quick reload, and he should be able to now move it to accepted. See, the stage is available, the state is accepted is available, and I will just put it to the workflow. Right, so now this release is now into the I've completed submission, and as part of my workflow, this release should automatically move in to the planning stage and in progress status. Right, and let's just quickly see. Okay, I think my build feels a little bit slow today. Okay, so now this release is in the in progress state. I'm planning an in progress status. So over here, as you can see, the impact and the rollout details got copied from the change, right? And in the planning stage, I will be giving the details of my downtime, which I am forecasting, right? So I can click on add downtime, and I'm going to say server shutdown, and I'm going to say downtime type is data center maintenance. These are the services that will affect. And where are these services being pulled in from? This is being pulled in from the submission stage. Because we mentioned the services that will get affected, the CI that will be involved. When are we scheduling it for? I'm going to say from 4th of December to the 5th of December. Right, and let me just say, okay, I've added, so I can add multiple downtime types, and in each and every stage of a release you can create tasks to be performed before a release moves into the next stage. Right, now quick question, so how do you define, or how do you make sure the tasks are completed before release can move into the next stage? You can do that with the help of the closure rules. So if I go into automation, if I go into closure rules, I have release closure rules. Over here, I will check associated tasks must be completed. So only if only if the tasks are completed, a release can go into the next stage. Otherwise, it will hit up with an error or throw up with an error. Right. So each stage of a release can have multiple approvals as part of the workflow. Now I don't have permission to move it to the next stage. The change manager will, the release manager will have it. So what I will do is I'm satisfied with the planning, moving to development. Right, and if I hit save, this release should move into the development stage. And whatever comments that you're giving as part of the when you're changing the status, it will be available under the status comment section under each and every stage in the service desk plus application. Right, so now currently it is in the development state, and it has started the timer. So when a release hits a specific stage which has an actual start time and time field, the time will automatically calculate. The end user, the user or the technician need not have to manually fill in. Right, and they can again do the tasks, the comments, whatever work they're going to perform, they can provide it. And once it is passed through the development stage, so I will say it's completed, move to testing, the actual end time will also get automatically populated. Right, so let's just do a quick video that should happen any moment now. Yeah, so the actual end time is now populated, and the release is now in the testing phase. Right, the testing, if I it's under testing, and the again, as you can see, it populated the time. And likewise, during the testing stage, you can specify what are the test cases that were checked. You can either you can attach it as a file, and likewise the issues found can also be attached as a file. Right, likewise you can move the stage change through multiple other stages like UAT testing, deployment. Right, and during deployment, let's just move it to deployment stage. I'm skipping the workflow for now and begin deploying. Right, and during the deployment stage, you can see the downtime field, right? So if I already have a downtime, right, scheduled, and there is an actual downtime, I can actually update the downtimes over here, right? So it will automatically copied, or if you want to manually do it, I can specify the actual start and end time of the downtime. And I can also create additional or I can also add additional downtimes which I have faced as part of the deployment section, right? And once it is deployed, I move it to the training phase and do, and once the training is completed, I will move it to review, right? And in the review phase, uh, I can specify the details of the review. And once it is completed, I will move it to closure state. Let's just put it for in progress, uh, completed, right? And when I'm in the closure state, I can specify whether it was close cancelled, close completed, or close rejected. I can provide the appropriate closure code, specify the details of the closure for this particular review, and I will be able to complete it right now. So that is how you can, those are the various actions or various operations that are available within each and every stage of a release. Couple of other stuff. Now we were talking about notifying the knock teams, right? So you can send out emails from the application, from a release itself, by clicking on send notification and specifying the email who it should be notified to. And you can notify your end users and the other departments by making an announcement as well. So I can say the announcement is server upgrade, which gets automatically copied, and what I will specify is when it is scheduled for. So I'm going to say it's scheduled for next month. So from December 7th to December 1st to December 7th, and specify what type of an announcement, what is the priority for it. And I can also make them know, let them know what are the services that are involved with this particular upgrade, and specify with email addresses that needs to be notified as well. And I will make it as public, right? And if I click save now and go into the announcement tab, I will have my announcement listed over here, right? Okay, here. So I can find the details of my announcement and all the information with it, right? And this info, so that is how you can make an announcement from a release itself. You don't actually have to switch tabs. You can all do everything from one single space. So that is release management in Service Desk Plus Cloud. With that, we have come to the very end of this presentation. I just want to quickly run through some of the key points that we went through and the challenges that we initially talked about, right? So for planning and properly executing release, documenting the risk and impact, you can make use of the planning stage under the release management section, right? And how you can involve key stakeholders, make use of the customized release roles, improper tracking of approvals, use the multi-stage approval process with CAB, right? And also avoid conflicts with other scheduled activities with the help of the change calendar or the release calendar that we saw, right? Track the release process lifecycle with the help of custom stage and status, and with the help of the graphical workflow builders. Communicate downtimes to stakeholders with the help of announcements and the notification emails, right? So with that, we have come to the very end of this release webinar. And if you have any queries, we will be happy to answer, or if you want to post it later, do send us an email. We'll be happy to get back to you as well. Thank you so much for joining today.